On that bat, I should say. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Machtails from the Cantina Live, the baseball postseason edition of 2022. Yes, my Rays have been eliminated quite a while ago. Several teams have been eliminated at this point. Little rain delay theater for those of you that are watching the very decisive Game 5 right now between the mighty Yankees and what I consider one of the many underdogs in the postseason this year. There's no drinking word tonight, but every time I slip up and say Indians instead of Guardians, drink like it's a Wednesday, maybe not like a Monday. Lots going on. We're going to talk to producer Matthew Rooney. We're going to talk to producer Antonio from New Jersey. Andy from Miami is also joining us on the show. And the one that everybody loves to hear from, Tyler Page. His Seattle Mariners were eliminated in the 18th inning by the Tyrants, the Cheatstros. So I'd like to introduce everybody before we start the show. Would you please say hello to a regular now? He's on every live show, producer Matthew Rooney.
Hey, Chris. Hey, everybody. Glad to be here, even though it was a sad Saturday night for me.
Yeah,
actually, my only friend who offered me condolences Sunday morning was my buddy who's a big Astros fan. So
the Astros fan sent you condolences.
Yeah. So he had cheered me up a little bit.
Nobody had seen the Dodgers being eliminated, especially the way they did. I have some notes here, actually. I'm usually not a note guy, but there's so much going on in the postseason. A lot of records have been set. A lot of teams that we thought were going to be in that bracket in the final stretch towards the World Series were eliminated a lot sooner than expected. But somebody that I don't know if he's as sad as you, but somebody that is no stranger to the show as well. Tyler Page. Tyler, thank you for joining us.
Hey.
Today. I got to ask you, Tyler, I forgot to ask you this. What is your connection with Seattle? And I think I get a little bit of it, but I want the baseball fans out there to know how Tyler Page, the poster child for the White Sox, became a Seattle Mariners fan. How did that all start for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's like when you get the question all the time, why are you a Rays fan? Except I don't rep Mariners all that often. My aunt and uncle are out there, so there's a connection there, and I just like Ken Griffey Jr. growing up. He was just fantastic to watch, and I got drawn to that team. I always knew I was a White Sox fan to my core, though. If it came down to it, I'd have to choose. I'd go Sox all day, but it's fun to root for the underdog, and the Mariners were a really fun team to watch this year. So, yeah, that's kind of the story.
Yeah, and that game that we were watching at Brad's concert, the Bear Hambones show at the Heavy Metal Bar, the Brower House in Lombard, Illinois. Man, that was a 6.5-hour game.
Yeah, I left my house at the 9th inning because I was like, I got to get to Brad's show, and I got there and the game was still on, and that's like an hour drive.
And like halfway through the set, like the game ended. It was such a long game. Matthew, where are you at with your level of depression right now? How attached to you are to the Dodgers? But they did lose against your San Diego Padres, so you kind of got a little gift.
Yeah, not really, especially after the two games. I don't know if either of you guys watched the games there, but the San Diego fans were just really nasty the whole time. Like, first of all, they limited ticket sales to like certain zip codes. That way the LA fans couldn't get tickets, which I understand. They want to have San Diego fans there. But pretty much every at bat, they were shouting beat LA. Like, it was like I couldn't, even on the radio.
I heard it on the radio.
Yeah, it was like just every at bat. And it was, I understand rooting for your team, but I felt like it was a little over the top, and it was getting to be a little disrespectful to because it's supposed to be sort of a, like when I play sports or I compete with somebody, I like it to be sort of gentlemanly or whatever you want to call it. And so for them to be doing that every single at bat was a little much.
You want to have good sportsmanship,
Yeah, and to me that's just not good sportsmanship to be acting like that. So I'm a little not happy with at least the Padre fans. That's nothing to do with the team. Like I was watching the team when they were showing them in the dugout, and none of them were cheering along with that. So I thought that was good, at least.
Well, I listened to the game on the radio on the way to the event, and Tony Gwynn, I want to say his son is the color commentator on the radio, Mr. Padre's son, and they were describing it as no, actually, this was on the way home, right? Because the first game was Seattle versus the Cheatstros. And then on the way home, I wanted to hear what was going to happen with the Dodgers game. And the radio announcers repeatedly said they had slayed the dragon.
They've been saying that since the beginning of the season. That was what their owner or whatever manager, general manager said back in like March, was that their goal was to slay the LA Dragon.
Well,
and they did. So
they did. It's funny. I think too. I'm going to talk to Antonio in just a minute about his Yankees facing the Guardians, and I felt like when the Rays were playing the Guardians during the wild card, the fans were nasty. So I don't know, are these underdog fans just like getting a little too overconfident?
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame. I'm not surprised. I mean, they haven't beat us in a long time, and LA fans are kind of a lot of the times like looking down at Padre fans, and so I get it, and so they're having their day. I still didn't like it that much. It was hard to watch. Like even I switched to my radio guys because I don't like to listen to the national guys that much, but it's just the whole time I couldn't hear most of the game.
Yeah, and I heard being LA, I was like, for some reason, I couldn't understand what they were saying over the radio, and I'm like, oh, that's what they're saying.
But I kind of had a feeling like I feel like the Dodgers, after they clinched the division back in mid-September, I guess it was, like after that they kind of, I don't know if I'd say they cooled off, but they were taking it easy. Like they knew that they were so far ahead they could afford to let their guys stretch themselves out, and they just kind of lost whatever momentum they had. And then this is the first year that they've had this 3-game wild card as well, so they kind of had like several days off as well, which I think further cooled them off. And not to take away from what San Diego did, because they still were playing amazingly well, but I think some of that when we started Saturday, I was kind of like not that hopeful that the Dodgers were going to win that game. The first
and again, I want to hear from Antonio because the Yankees were in the same situation as the Dodgers. But yeah, it's the first time we had a best of 3 wild card series, and we've seen that happen before in the past, where teams have won the division and they've cooled off. They're not fighting for their lives like the Phillies. So we got the Rays were swept in the 2-game set. The Cards were swept. The Blue Jays were swept. The Mariners were swept. A lot of records being set with that M's game, that M's and Cheatstros game. Same with the Cleveland and the Rays. But gone are the Mets, the 101-game winner. Gone are the Braves, the other 101-game winner. Andy's favorites. And also gone are the Dodgers, 111-game winner. The only one that is left out of the 100-game winners are the Cheatstros. So, Andy,
how's it going, guys?
They were a favorite of yours. I know you said don't sleep on this team. Were you surprised they went out the way that they did? And have you been surprised about all these underdog teams?
Not really surprised. I mean, the Mets, I thought they were going to beat the Phillies. That's shocking to me.
You mean the Braves?
The Braves. I'm sorry. It's been wild for sure. That's for sure. I mean, the Phillies and Padres is going to be a good series, but like Matthew was saying, did the Padres give it all against the Dodgers, and now they're facing a good Phillies team? I don't know. It's gonna be a good one to watch.
It sounds, after listening to MLB Network on the way back to my house 20 minutes before the show started, it seems like the Phillies are the favorite. It seems like the Padres are playing good ball, but the Phillies are on fire. And as a Rays fan, I've explained it in the past. I was not a bitter Rays fan against losing to the Phillies in 2008. It would be kind of fun to see the Padres beat the Phillies, just for the sake of it being so fresh and new.
Padres, what do you want? A Padres Guardians World Series?
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie.
No, well, hey, now you're ruling the Yankees out. And without further ado, I need to bring on producer. We don't want any producers angry in the green room, especially when it comes to not even talking about his team in the World Series. Now, the game is still on, rain delay. Yes, Antonio. And by the way, welcome to the show as always.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Tyler, I hate your prediction. Just running us out.
I hope I'm wrong.
Jeez Louise, Madonna Mia. That being said, Yankees in the World Series in game, I'd say they win the World Series against the Phillies in the first 5 games.
Okay, so Yankees and Phillies. Okay.
No.
Now, if it is Yankees and Phillies in the World Series, obviously that is going to be a rematch, if I'm not mistaken, from 2009. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we have, and the Yankees. That was the last time, yes, because the little black box said, "You want to know a baseball joke?" Last time the Yankees won the World Series was before she was born. And that was obviously in 2009. Now, Antonio, the game is still in rain delay, I'm assuming. How do you feel about, one, as a fan, what is going through your mind and, what kind of emotions do you have? And 2, how do you feel about your chances realistically? You guys played good ball last night, I would say.
I'll give you the real raw, Yankee emotional fan cut here. I absolutely am upset with Cashman and Boone for the mismanagement of multiple positions throughout the year. I think they have plenty of talent, but they have not been able to capitalize on that talent when it needs to come through. I feel like we will probably get by the Guardians. That being said, we are not set up to actually win against the Astros. And that is a deeper cut problem that goes back several years. That has nothing to do with the team today or the talent on the ground. That has to do with the decisions from the back end of the office that has been trickling down for the last several years. So I feel good about the Yankees with the personnel that they have on field. I don't feel very, very secure on the management decisions that are being made from the back end of the bullpen and all that. So what do I think? I think the Yankees most likely get to the Astros. The Astros beat them. And unfortunately, it's an Astros-Phillies World Series. And I probably will just catch the next live Machtails recap of the World Series. Because those are 2 teams that I do not give a shit if they actually make it to the World Series.
Yes, the Philly. You know what? I don't know.
I like Bryce Harper.
As a Yankees fan, but okay. What I heard though is we'll probably beat the Guardians. So you're not overconfident by any means.
Why should you be?
I was getting some tone of a little doubt, if you will. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But I at the end of the day, I think whoever's playing the Cheatstros, and don't even call them the Astros. you gotta keep that cheaters or Cheatstros theme going with this team. And somebody said it best. You took the most hated team in baseball, and you had given them the most lovable, least likely to hate manager to just kind of cover up.
We did that on purpose.
Yeah,
cover up the mess,
total PR move.
Yeah,
I would say it was a total PR move. I mean, Dusty is well deserving of still managing, but he's been fired from a lot of teams. But apparently, he is still, like Tyler said, he was surprised that he wasn't sleeping during that 18-inning game.
Tony La Russa still has a job in this league, right?
Not right now.
No.
I think he's probably going to get a job, I would think, somewhere in the office. Any word on that, Tyler? Anything?
It sounds like he's not in Chicago at all.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be on MLB Network next weekend.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he has a great
he's gonna be
personality.
fishing. He's gonna be fishing.
I think they might want to. I think people are going to bring him on to their shows because they feel like it's probably going to be their last chat with La Russa. You know, it's like the poor guy is ill. He's, I feel like his time in Chicago, bringing him back in, I think it's just as an old school Chicago fan, I thought that was a great move. I know, Tyler, you said that Ozzy could be coming back to Chicago.
Yeah,
I think he is back in Chicago.
Somebody that is rooted in Chicago, like us, when you see these teams get managers that have history from yesteryear, I don't know. I think there's something always cool about nostalgia in baseball. And I think that's what La Russa was. I think Ozzy's going to be a better manager than La Russa if that happens. But okay, let's since we're on the topic of managers, what do you? And I don't necessarily know if I know all about the managers of the teams remaining. But do you guys see one manager that is going to make? Well, Antonio, you kind of answered that. You said Boone's going to break the team.
He'll win in spite of Boone.
Andy, who is your, I guess, maybe favorite manager that's in the postseason right now that, you would say that he's going to, get the job done? And, of course, what comes to mind is Tito always comes to mind just because of his past experience. But, Andy, is there somebody that comes to mind for you that you're like, hey, this guy's going to get the job done?
I wouldn't say get the job done, but Terry Francona, you can't go wrong with him. I mean, he's an experienced guy who's been there before. You can certainly rally the team, but can they beat the Yankees? I don't see that happening. I think the Yankees are going to move on from this one.
So you call the Yankees. Antonio, he was like 60-40 on that. Tyler, what do you think? Game 5 tonight. Who do you think is going to do this?
I'm gonna go Yankees because fuck the Guardians, and the Guardians are gonna hit bloopers. Right, that's what they've been doing. They're like the luckiest team in baseball somehow.
Yeah, they do the small ball, Yeah,
I don't even know if I'd call it small ball.
No,
it's
not
ball, right?
It's not small ball.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go Yankees, but it's gonna be a fight.
Who's
now,
pitching tonight for the Yankees?
Well, one more time, Andy.
Who's pitching tonight for the Yankees?
You know what? Who is pitching tonight for the Yankees?
Garrett Cole said he was available.
I don't know how to say it. Talon. I don't know how to say his name.
Tyon.
Well,
We always say
Josh,
Jameson.
Josh Naylor better be careful tonight. He might get one towards the head tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
I'd do it. I would do it. I would send the message.
Yeah, I would
You
on.
have to pitch up and tight. You have to pitch up and tight. You have to let them know you're back in the Bronx, right? Because I'm all for that, right? Like gamemanship. The part of this game is you do certain things and you don't do it past second base, or you do it when you get to here. And if you do it in a wrong way, you get answered to.
Otherwise, is that considered Bush League in your opinion?
Well, first off,
Old school baseball. That's what it
yeah.
is.
Like the rules you grew up on, right?
It's
And
the
so
Ty Cobb way to play baseball.
I have no problem with him celebrating the moment, but when you get past second base and you're looking at a dugout and you're looking at another dugout and you're making a certain gesture,
Yeah.
hey, listen, make the gesture. But if you get something high up and tight, that's how it goes.
Well,
Nobody's doing that to Nolan Ryan. Like nobody's doing that to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree on that exactly. But hey, make your gesture, and we'll see how the rest of the game goes. Because you hit a home run, and that was fantastic. But your team didn't win, and that's all I care about.
Now, Antonio, how do you feel about the fan base? I know Matthew had chimed in earlier about the Padres fans being a little too amped up and over the top.
Did he change his hat mid? Fuck.
That's what I was about to say. Antonio has a new hat.
So beginning this year, I happened to go to a Padres game, and I've never seen the Padres home stadium before, and it is super nice. If you Matt, you've probably seen it. It's literally right in the middle of downtown. I loved it because of that. They have a little league park right next to it. The Yankee Stadium on the opposite end of the spectrum is like gated in the middle of the Bronx with like several layers of security before you get to it. So I randomly adapted the Padres for my home team or my away team, I guess you could say. So they are my National League favorites. So I did switch hats halfway through. I don't know where to go.
No, the game, you guys haven't even been eliminated as Yankees. Wow. you feel better about the Padres' chances than the Yankees' chances?
Actually, no. I think Phillies are going. I hate to say it. I feel like the Phillies are those like kids that were all counted out, and everybody halfway through the season, the Phillies, everybody counted them out. I don't care who you were. We thought they were done. They were like Brewers. They were
fire the manager, man.
Yeah, exactly. Girardi, who I love. But the fact that the Phillies were nowhere and now they're up here, I think they're going to be the really big contenders because they're the guys who play with no care at this point.
Yeah, and you know what? Going back to Matthew's comment about the Dodgers kind of, having a really good year, slowing down, taking a little time off. The Phillies are kind of the opposite of that. They won 87 games they've won. The Padres won 89, and it's 2 more than the Phillies. But yes, I believe that the Phillies are playing with more fire. We know, speaking about fandom, speaking about the fan base, we know that every fan in Philly takes pride on being a total prick. No matter who that team is going to play, I believe that's kind of expected, though. You don't necessarily.
Yeah, I think even the Phillies fans would say, yeah.
Well, yeah, we own that. We love that.
Yeah. Like my ex-father-in-law was a Phillies guy, and he would say, yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, so it is crazy. Now, Matthew, do you feel like you are going to stick with the Padres until fate decides what's in store for them? Are you too depressed about the Dodgers year coming to an end?
Yeah, at this point I'm kind of like what was said earlier. Like I probably won't watch very many games. Like I'll still look at the scores and stuff, but I think I'm kind of moving on and catching up on some other things besides, because I've been watching baseball every night almost, since May or whenever we went to ICC. And so I got a lot of books to catch up on and things. So I probably won't watch it. And just because the way the fans were, it kind of soured me a little bit. So I kind of feel like I'm not invested in any of the teams at the moment because I was also pulling for Seattle.
Well,
which, by the way, there was lots of great jokes about how they had a double header in one game and how the Astros clinched in 4 and all that kind of, swept them with 4 games.
Fun team to watch.
Let them have 2 home games or whatever.
You got Phillies fans, and then you got the rebirth of jerk fandom in San Diego. So. And maybe you feel like the way Antonio does too, where you're like, hey man, the Phillies are going to win. Why would you invest in a best of 7 game series if you knew that the Phillies were going to win and you were a Padres fan? I think that's just, you can't get that time back.
Right. Well, and I do feel, you mentioned earlier not feeling sour about the Phillies from 2008, but I actually do. Like, I was a big Rays fan that year, and I was really not happy with that we lost to Philly. And so, like, I still see that last pitch in the rain, like, in my head all the time when I think about the Phillies. And so I don't want to watch them win, really.
Yeah, because of that bitterness that you have from the 2008 Rays.
Yeah.
I could see that. I think the thing that, is the silver lining of the Rays getting eliminated is the other night when Tyler and I were out at Brad's show, it felt, the funny thing is Tyler comes in, I'm already there. And Tyler's like, dude, he's looking at the TVs. He's like, there's fucking football on 3 TVs. And I said, yeah, I gotta tell them to turn the baseball game on. But the bar back played ball, and he's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna turn baseball on for you guys. And it reminded me of the time when I've watched the postseason where I'm just watching good baseball as opposed to being invested in a team, because there is nothing worse than being invested in a team that you have high hopes for, like the Dodgers, like the Rays last year, for example, or the Rays in '08, and you hit that wall. It's like, you know what? Fuck baseball. I don't want to watch the rest of it.
That's how I felt Sunday morning. I was like, oh, do I even want to watch it next year?
No. So, Andy, do you have a team that you would like to see win it all? I know you're a well-rounded baseball fan. Is there one team that you would like to see get the job done?
I have my personal answer. I'm not going to answer that here.
You got a personal answer, and then you got a realistic answer, right?
Yes,
Is that the Astros? Or?
Yes. To be honest, yes. Because at what point do we stop putting that cheat stroke stigma on them? I mean, that's
Right.
not.
I agree.
Let's not be wrong here. I mean, they've been to 6 straight championship series since the scandal. So I mean, did they cheat? Are they still cheating?
We don't know when they stopped cheating.
Are they still cheating? Are they this good because they're still cheating?
Altuve still goes like this every at bat. He's like,
No,
tugs his jersey.
You know, as a Yankee fan, I will say this. This is the year if Astros are to prove themselves. They've been, like you said, Andy, 7 years at this point, better half of a decade. How long can the cheating scandal hold over them? I feel like as a Yankee fan, if they're going to do it, they do it this year. If they do it unanswered, and everyone walks away and goes, yeah, that stuff happened, like the steroids, that stuff happened. But the people who played, the people who were part of that team, Altuve, who, I hate to say this, is probably a pretty good baseball player at some point in his life.
He is.
He's very good.
He's
very
damn good.
Yeah. They deserve to be
Boo.
and I hate to say that. My son used to say that.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the year for the Astros.
Was that a cheer for Altuve or a boo for Altuve in the back?
That was a boo for him, my friend. We are not Astros.
You bring up a really, really good point, because
it's the.
I'm sorry, you guys cut off. I'm having some Wi-Fi issues.
That's okay. Now let me ask you this: do you guys think that one, we know that the Astros have something to prove. We know. Andy had said that they're always there. They're always there. Well, but we're still booing them like crazy, and we're still going to boo when they win. When they win, the only people that are going to be truly happy, the casual baseball fan or the well-rounded baseball fan. The well-rounded baseball fan might be like what you just said. You know what? They had to prove that they did not always cheat. We don't want to think that they're still cheating, because you don't want to get caught twice. It's like Toys R Us. Toys R Us came back this weekend. You don't want to die twice. You don't want to cheat twice.
Did the Toys R Us cheat?
Well, no, Toys R Us didn't cheat, but it's an example. It's like Toys R Us, they have to survive from here on out. It's like when if somebody cheats, you get caught. I want to think that the game is pure enough, and foolish for me to think that, because it's probably not. But you would think that if you cheat with doing shit, at some point you're like, hey, I got caught. I can't do this anymore, because when you get caught twice, God, I don't know. Is this enough to change the baseball world's mindset on the cheat stros if they win the World Series? How do you think this is enough?
No, I don't think it's enough. It's always going to loom over their heads. It is what it is.
People still talk about
some. Yeah.
1919.
It's going to be. Yeah, exactly. It's baseball.
Do they?
It's a 100-year curse. It's always lives on. It's never going to go away. But at some point, you got to give them their due respect. I mean, to make it 6 years in a row, and they've lost core players, and just the one that they replaced just steps in and just performs again.
Yeah.
It's something they're doing something right, obviously.
Right, exactly.
So and I have my personal reasons. I don't. Yes, it's cheating, but it happens at every level of the game. I mean, I have a hard time
it
seeing
does.
it
It
as
does.
cheating. I mean,
Oh, there's the baseball gods intervening.
They're like, that's enough of that. Houston talk.
To that point, I will say, like,
the
from a
baseball
Yankee
gods
Oh.
did intervene there.
Can
That
you
was,
guys hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
yeah, the baseball gods did not like what you were talking about there, my friend.
No, they don't. They don't. But I mean, this thing happens on every level of the game. Little league, college, everywhere. There's some type of cheating. Teams find ways to get the edge over other teams. I mean, what are you supposed to do as a runner on second base? You're not going to look at the catcher and pick up signs.
No,
I mean,
that makes
shame
sense.
on you. Shame on you as the other team for not mixing up your signs every inning so that teams don't catch on. And the third base coach, you can't see in between the catcher's legs.
I actually heard a good one. Ready for comp pitch? I heard they have a fake comp pitch on certain pitchers or on the catcher, and the actual catcher or someone in the dugout is calling the pitches for the pitcher out on the field.
Oh, that would make sense. Although,
and there's no rule against someone if you're using the same channel, you're using the comp pitch, as long as you're using the same device. I've heard people actually calling the pitches from the dugout, not from the catcher on the field.
Yeah, if you notice, Alex Bregman always has one in third baseman for the Astros, so he's tuning in because I think you're allowed to have 3 players on the field with it. Yeah.
You know
what Andy was saying is similar to what I was telling you before, that my buddy he's not from Houston, he's in Arkansas with me, but when I had asked him, like, what do you say to people who still cling to the cheating thing? And that was, he made a similar point. He said, probably the Astros weren't the only team doing it. It was just,
Right.
they got caught and, maybe they're not as popular in the first place. And so they were an easy team to target, which I don't know if that's true or not, but, I mean, I personally don't like the booing. I mean, I don't like booing in general. Like I wasn't happy, like when I watched the All-Star game this year, for instance, that they like super booed the Astro players, and I wasn't watching closely that year, so I don't know which players were the ones who were caught, and so maybe some of those guys at the All-Star game were caught, but probably not all of them. Some of them are just being booed because they're on the Astros, even though they probably weren't part of that team, and that kind of bothers me a little bit.
We actually the situation in Cleveland right now and Yankees where one of the guys stood up for Quan with an outfield incident where some Yankee fans made some racial comments towards him. This guy backed him up, got into a little bit of a fray with some fans, and every time he comes up now at Yankee Stadium, he's getting massively booed. And I just kind of feel like, why are we backing up the bad fans there, right? Like, everyone's going to be competitive with a fandom. Yeah, you're going to get into it, and yeah, you boo when a pitcher looks to first base and maybe pitches over. Okay, that's part of the game. That's the love and fun of it. But I feel like for a year that has been so big for MLB, with viewership up, everybody watching it, there's a lot of great stuff with like Pujols to Judge with his home run record. I feel like there's a lot of just crappy fans that have been bubbling up lately, and I don't know why. And I saw that with San Diego. I agree with you, right? Like, I love the whole LA and San Diego series, but they were just, at one point, it was just like, all right, guys, let's get over it. It's like when you hear Boston fans, nothing against Yankees in Boston, but when you hear Boston playing Tampa Bay and they're chanting "F the Yankees," come on, play the game and let's play the game and be sportsmanship and have that old school rule to it. It's like the one sport that we have in our world that's like that abides to that.
Now, Antonio, did you say that? I want to say the Yankees fans do boo their own players, yes, from time to time, or is it stopped?
Of course.
Okay.
Yankee fans are terrible, and I'm happy to say that. There are very good sections in Yankee Stadium. If you're in the right section, you know where to be. That's like the bleacher creatures. They're like no more than $100. They're no less than 25. Those are your real fans, and then you have everybody else who comes along to the games.
Now, Tyler, do White Sox fans boo their own players, and how often?
I think there's a good amount of policing going on in White Sox Park. Like if I saw a guy booing Abreu because he was hurt and not running all the way to first at 100%, and I had to get up and tell him to shut up. So that's pretty common, I'd say.
To boo Abreu.
Well, yeah, you're out of your mind, Mike.
But it's happening.
It's happening. Yeah.
See, before the Cubs won the World Series, before the Cubs got Joe Madden, the Cubs fans would boo, and that drove my wife nuts. I'm a little guilty for booing, some of the players from maybe like 2010 to 2012. Joe Madden got booed. Obviously, he joined the team 2015, but when he started to get booed, I was just like, you know what? These fans just don't get it, but you don't boo the fucking manager.
You do boo the manager when he's Tony La Russa. That was totally justified.
So, now, Andy, I know the Marlins are not. If anybody has attendance problems, it's not the Rays, it's not the White Sox, it's definitely the Miami Marlins. Simply because, no offense, my friend, but the quality of the team has not been what it should be, and you can agree with that. But
it's the franchise in general.
The franchise in general. How are the fans in general when you go to a game? Will they boo the people? Are they there just to drink? What is the overall vibe of Miami Marlins fans in the last 3 years?
Well, in the last 20 plus years, it's quiet. It's
the last 20 plus years.
Yeah, it's a quiet stadium. You don't hear much. You don't hear booing. You don't rarely hear cheering because we're never winning. So
it was funny because I wanted to go see the Rays in Miami. I just had 2 ballparks left, Boston and Miami. And you said, no, don't come down for the Rays Marlins series. You got to come down for the Baseball World Classic, I believe. Is that in March, correct?
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it is a baseball trip in the making. I don't know. I'm not against it.
So that's going to be like a soccer game, basically, right?
Yeah. Chris, I'm just going to log off and watch you guys because my Wi-Fi is just not working tonight.
Okay, Andy. Hey, thanks for your input. Thanks for joining us as always, man. And we'll talk to you on the next show.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, take care. Hey, I know this is a music-friendly show. I need to ask you guys, have you guys caught the baseball postseason music? They play two songs. And I've noticed this for a handful of years, maybe last 7-8 years, maybe 10 years. There's an upbeat song when they go to commercial break, and then there's the really sad song. I'm going to hum it. I'm going to embarrass myself, but it goes, da na na na, da na na na. It's very minor key. When your team is down, that is like, give me the box of fucking Kleenex. Have you guys noticed this about?
I didn't notice, but I also, like I said, listen to my radio guys a lot, so maybe that's why.
If you're listening to the radio guys, now I got it because we talked about
that's a great
Phillies in 08. Matthew, you heard my Phillies race story, right?
No, I don't think so.
So I thought it was okay that they lost to the Phillies in 08 because speaking about your radio guys, especially during the postseason. So Harry Callis was the announcer for the Phillies for the longest time. He did a lot for the broadcasters organization. I'm sure they have a name. I don't know the name, what they're called. But he fought for the local broadcasters on the radio to get the postseason games instead of just one person, or one network, if you will. So what happened was Todd Callis was working with the Rays for a long time. His dad was Harry. That finally got a chance to call a Phillies World Series game. They won, and every broadcaster that is in the postseason owes it to Harry because he made that happen. And he died a year later.
Oh.
So I'm like, the guy fought for the broadcasters to get the postseason games. He finally called his home team game in the World Series. They won. He died a year later. You know what? The Rays will eventually win a World Series. Harry's gone. He's not going to be able to call a World Series game anymore, So that is my silver lining in that story about the Rays, going out like the way they did to the Phillies.
Horrible name, Harry Callis.
It's a funny name. It really is. Harry Callis, yes. It is. You don't want that.
Terrible.
You don't want, but God bless Harry. Hey, since we're on the topic of music, Antonio, we are going to switch gears here for a minute. Producer Todd Suds Sedlak had a question on a Lineage episode that you recently produced. And this has nothing to do with baseball, but it does happen to do with music. So Todd says he loved the Lineage segment, and he had a question for Antonio. Is there any connection between the versions of Baby Blue you discussed on the exclusive podcast that you can get on Patreon and the Badfingers song of the same name from 1971 that was famously used during the Walter White death sequence, spoiler alert, at the end of Breaking Bad? Can you answer that question?
I can. There is a connection there. Also, Matt, I owe you Matthew, I owe you a plus up. Your correction is correct on the page there.
The termites.
The Beck, yeah, right. The Beck lyric is "Time is a piece of wax, and I'm a termite who's choking on the splinters." So we can discuss that next class, and your essay will be due 3 pages. But yeah, Todd, you are absolutely correct. Or should I say Suds? We all call him Suds, right?
Yes, Suds, yes.
Suds, there is a connection there, and I will have that for you guys on a follow-up. It's like very loose, to be honest with you. Not much there, but there is a little bit of a connection. That's why I didn't include it.
So that is a good tease, Antonio, and I thank you for that. You guys need to join the Machtails Patreon. Hey, he's back.
No, the wife gave up the computer, so
you guys got to join the Machtails from the Cantina podcast Patreon to get the podcast. $2 gets you in. Hey guys, don't forget to send me we're going to hit episode 100 on the podcast episode. So please send me your audio sound bites on I can include on the show, So at the end of the day, the game is still in rain delay. Yes, Cleveland and New York, or is it a go?
They're supposed to make a decision 19 minutes ago, which is why I keep going on mute.
So we got rain delay theater hardcore here. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight live. And thank you to everybody watching on the replay as well. So just to kind of recap, man, you know what? I'm going to be very, very blunt here. These are my predictions on if I was at the casino. I'm going to go Indians over the Yankees. I'm going to go Phillies over San Diego. And then that's going to bring us to a World Series matchup.
Is Houston going to beat Cleveland then?
Yes. Houston is going to beat Cleveland. Yes. So Cleveland is going to beat the Yankees in 5. I believe that Houston is going to probably hit Cleveland pretty hard. I thought the Yankees were going to sweep Cleveland. So what do I know? So Astros and Phillies in the World Series. God, you know what? If I was a betting man, I'd put it on the Phillies.
Phillies are at plus 350 right now. So it's not bad.
You said the odds on the Phillies to win the World Series?
Yeah, plus 350.
Plus 3. Are they the favorite to win the World Series?
No, Astros plus 145.
Okay, so the Astros are the favorites to win
It
the
should
World
be.
Series.
Mhm.
Tonight's game, who's the favorite to win tonight's game since we're on
Cleveland. Wait, no, Yankees. Sorry. Blah.
Yankees
It's
are
not.
the favorites.
It's pretty minimal though.
Okay. God, the bullpen. How's the bullpen, Antonio, for the Yankees?
It's a weird situation where we find ourselves. If it gets delayed tonight versus tomorrow, there's a bigger difference for tomorrow. Bullpen still looks weak. That being said, Clay Holmes has been looking good.
Will they use him?
Will they actually? Hey, just so you guys know, we have like really good players, but do we play them after that night? Who knows?
So, and I asked this on the last episode, but I'll ask it again. Did anybody get very far with their bracket, if you had a bracket? Or did everybody bust at this point?
I didn't make a bracket.
I didn't do a bracket.
If you did a bracket, were you like looking at what
Terrible.
we're at now? Because I didn't even do a bracket, but I'm looking at the teams that are in it still, and I'm like, that's why I didn't do a bracket.
It's too hard. It's so unpredictable. You never know. Look at the Phillies. You get a team like that just comes in and just surprises. They remind me a lot of the 03 Marlins. Coaching change at some point. They had a sub 500 record and then just stayed the course while the Mets and Braves battled it out, got in, got hot at the right time, and look where they're at now.
And I want to say too, if you did a bracket with MLB.com and you won, doesn't that? I mean, there's money involved, isn't it?
Well, you have. I think it's a chance, right?
Yeah, it's probably. I don't know. It's not like March Madness, but
Is March Madness more of a crazy bracket? Than that?
yeah, March Madness is like 10 times crazier.
Wow. The thing
madness.
about this, the postseason is just year after year after year. It's so unpredictable. And I think what happens, going back to the fans, is the fans, right? You believe in your team. So you're like, we're going to go to the World Series. We're going to beat this team. We're going to beat that team. And, you take a big fan base that believes in their team and they bust during the first round of the wild card. You're going to completely destroy your bracket at that point. And then nobody really wins at that point.
Here's a question for you guys that it came to me today. If the Padres win, what do you do with Tatis? Do you trade him?
Yes.
I think they have to.
They have to. Bad blood on that team, which is going up. You have a lot of great players on that. You have basically the face of baseball, one of them, Sato. Why bring that back?
You build your team around Machado and Soto, and
you say Sato, I say Soto. You say tomato, I say tomato.
Tatis is so great too.
I'm cool if they trade him because the Sox originally gave the Padres Tatis for a garbage James Shields. So if that trade doesn't work out,
that was part of the James Shields trade.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Wow. That goes way back to
2016, 17. I can't remember.
Pandemic.
Yeah, I don't know. Time's been under.
And Shields was like at the end of his career. I believe
horrible.
It
might have been 2013, 12. I don't know.
No, because he was with the Royals in 14. So this was definitely probably, like you said, I think your first guess on Shields with the White Sox. And Shields was a rock star with the fucking Rays. It's crazy that all these players. Not all of them, like will Judge finish as a Hall of Fame career like, the people before him? Like Jeter, will he have the career that Jeter had? I don't know. It's hard to say, right?
That's one of the questions right now is whether, because Kershaw might come back again next year, and they sort of debate whether, because his home is near Dallas, and so he almost went to play for Dallas this year, but he stayed in LA, and so that's one of the sort of off-season questions for the Dodgers is whether he'll come back and play again for them next year, because he played all right. I don't
Bobby
know.
Miller. He's like a number 8 prospect. He's going to come up, I'm sure.
So going back to the betting man's bet. Who's the least favorite to win the World Series right now, and who's left? I'm going to put some money on that fucking team.
The Guardians.
The Guardians
Guardians at plus 1,000. Yeah.
plus 1,000. Okay, so if now that'll obviously change if they beat the Yankees tonight.
Yeah, that'll change drastically.
I still think they don't have a chance against Houston.
It'll all
Cleveland.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
I think that would
I don't know. Maybe it'll go up, Tyler.
If Cleveland does win and they advance and they play Houston, I think that's going to be a quick series. I don't think Cleveland has enough. Yeah, I don't think Cleveland has enough to. I mean, they could surprise. You never know, but I don't think it.
Yeah, the Braves didn't make it.
Yeah. Look at that.
I think out of this group, this roundtable postseason baseball chat, it sounds like the Cheatstros are going to win it all.
That's what it looks like, but you just never know. It's so unpredictable.
Maybe that's not what we want. I know that's not what we want, but I got to tell you, like Antonio said, Andy, like you said, at some point they have to break the stigma. And going back to what you guys talked about earlier, the fan base. I remember going to see the Cheatstros play the White Sox. We were booing Altuve, and I'm like, I saw some guy with his daughter, and I'm like, I can't talk shit to this guy. There's a level of where you can't blame the Astros fan base. However, I want to know if your team cheated like that, won the championship, got a slap on the wrist, and you're still backing them. Not to be blunt and straightforward, but would you do the same thing if your wife cheated on you or your husband cheated on you? Would you be at the game? Would you be that? Would you be that committed after that happened? I don't know. Maybe Astros fans are. I know a lot of the world.
But not committed, but you can still boast that that you married that celebrity wife that you divorced and say, hey, but I was still married to her. So
Not everybody's monogamous either.
Yeah, you can be poly.
The only thing that really gets me about Astros fans is when they brag about the 2017 World Series.
Right.
That's the only I've hung out with those guys at games and stuff. I've hugged them in the bathroom. And then I'm like, oh, what are you not wearing Altuve, are you? I'll go into it. If you're wearing a Pena jersey
first.
Wait, what?
Man,
You always check the number first before
I know.
in the bathroom. That's all.
He had a split thing going on. It's hard.
And I asked Tyler the other day, I asked him, what are you going to do if the White Sox sign Carlos Correa in free agency?
There's no way.
That was our big thing, right? Carrera could have gone to the Yankees last year. And it was like, how much do you actually want to win versus how much do you think they actually cheated?
Yeah.
Listen, like I told my friend the other day, I'll take Carlos Correa and his trash cans on the Marlins any day.
No, I would not want the Cubs to, because the Rays aren't going to sign any of those guys because they just don't have the money. If the Cubs sign one of those guys, I would not be happy. I remember Darvish, who I hated on the Rangers. Cubs signed him. I was like, fuck you. I was not a fan of Darvish because of what he did against the Rays, in 10 and 11. So when he came, and everybody, like Theo Epstein, when he came with the Cubs, I was like, fuck this guy. He's got too much Red Sox blood in him. I would not want a former Cheatstro on the Cubs by any means, And getting a little fan rivalry, in my blood. I remember there were a couple White Sox players that I could not stand, but when they went to the Rays, I was like, you know what? I can root for these guys.
Who are you thinking of? I'm trying to.
Oh, I want to say, was it Juan Pierre?
Yeah.
It's JP. You can't hate JP.
I hated that fucking guy, but when he was on the Rays, I'm like, hell yeah, man. But he wasn't a cheater. It was just that fan rivalry.
He was a Cubby too.
Yeah.
Let it go, I want to say he retired with the Rays as well, but yeah, he didn't play with the Rays very long, but he was a fan. He was a fan favorite for the short time that he was there. Man,
I think he ended with the Marlins.
With the Marlins, okay, so maybe 1 year. He's like, I'm in Florida. I'm going from St. Pete to Miami.
This was like a few years ago. He ended here.
Yeah, probably about 4 years ago, maybe. No.
Yeah, something like that.
About that.
He's still around the team. He sticks around the Marlins organization.
All right, hey, I tell you what, if the Astros do not win the World Series, beers are on me. Beers are on me.
On to Chicago.
All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you, Matthew Rooney. Thank you for not only producing the show, but being a guest on the show. And keep an eye on that Padres score,
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Give the fans a little slack because I know they're just hungry.
Yeah, they're excited, so they can have their day.
Tyler Page, thank you again for producing the show, doing a lot of stuff that Matthew is kind of done, so you could be a guest and relax on the show.
Yeah, it's nice.
I love having you on the show as a guest and not somebody that's running the controls of the spaceship here that we do on Machtails from the Cantina. So again, thank you, Antonio. Thank you again for producing the lineage and for your support. And you changed that hat back because you have a game to watch tonight. It hasn't been called. No, it hasn't. We don't know.
Yankees go. We're gonna win. We're gonna win it all.
You know what? I told you last night I was rooting for the Yankees. I said, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
Then he picked the Guardians. And then today he can pick this guy.
Well, you know what? I got to
Yankees are gonna win. And then today he picks the Guardians.
I picked the Guardians not as a fan, but just because, anyways.
I know.
It's a crazy racetrack during the postseason at the end, especially at the end, Start watching all these teams, they start. I think the Phillies have the most magic. Andy, technical difficulties set aside, it's always great to have you on the show.
It is. Apologize for the connection issues, but it's always a blast being on.
Oh, always a pleasure to have you guys on. And I want to thank you guys again. Remember, support the show for just $2 a month. I don't mean to give you my PBS telethon speech here, but keep Machtails going, like the gentleman that I had on the show tonight. It's been a slice having them on. If I can get the Robert Hines Band to take us out, God, I would love to have a live show where I have the Robert Hines Band live. Iron Trainwreck. And we had I'd like to do another live show in the flesh. Hey, we will see you guys on Friday and Saturday. Friday, we have Professor John Tenuto, who is in The Force Among Us, The Toys That Made Us, and so much other really cool things. He was on the Reels special, Treasures Unearthed, I believe it was called. And Jimmy Mack is going to be joining us for the Halloween show, along with Sean Hines, a week from this Friday. And we're going to have a producers roundtable on Saturday, so stay tuned for that. Now, why join Patreon when you get all the shit for free on YouTube? Because we need your support, and you get so much more. Hey, chut and choo-choo, boyos. And we'll see if the Cheatstros, can become the Astros once again. So long, everybody. Thanks again.